Tamasha is one of those films that the majority of the people love, but I have problems with. Yes, this is a Loki situation. I like the movie and I completely understand why people love it and resonate with it. But with Tamasha, only parts of it work for me instead of it working as a whole. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about my criticisms against the film, but also some of the things that I like about it and that I think are really well done. In the opening of Tamasha, we have the backstory of Ranbir Kapoor's character as a young boy, where he lives, and his relationship with an old storyteller played by Piyush Mishra. But the film really begins in Corsica as we follow the bond between Ved and Tara, who don't really know anything about each other and intentionally keep it that way. I really like this bit if I'm being honest, and I'm a huge fan of the Matar Gusty song. But some of the things that irritated me are the ways a certain shot was framed. Sometimes you see Ved in a shot with negative space next to him, and sometimes a shot cuts from a frame where you see the character occupying majority of the screen to a shot where it shows where they are at. And I found it extremely jarring when there are these ambitious shot compositions which to me serve no purpose at all. And then there are these scene transitions that go like this, and that was just a very bad editing choice in my opinion. But I like how the film takes a turn and changes its tone. It goes from what seems like a fun rom-com to a tad bit depressing film about a man going through his internal struggle. Tara isn't able to stop thinking about Ved and tracks him down 4 years after their first meet, and they begin a relationship. But something is wrong. Ved is no longer the confident and crazy man he was in Corsica, who imitated Hindi characters and took risks. He is now a decent and well behaved man who always did what others expect of him. This is by far the best part of the film, and the part most people can relate to. I like the parallel of who we see him as in the beginning of the film contrasting with who he is now, and Tara even calls him out on it and lets him know that this is not the real him. Corsica was Ved's escape to be who he wanted to be and to do what he wanted to do, and back in India, he went back to his restrained self. Here's a minor issue I have with the film. The film opens with the young version of Ved, but then in Corsica, we see everything from Tara's perspective. So I thought that she is the protagonist of the film because we see her hanging out with Ved and we see her life after leaving Corsica. But after she meets Ved, the film suddenly changes its protagonist and we see the life and the conflict of Ved. And then whenever we see Tara again, it's from Ved's perspective instead of Tara's perspective. So it's not something I find to be a major issue, but I just wanted to point this out. Also, I found Tara to be a much more interesting character than Ved, and I would have loved to see more of her. Now, I know the primary focus of the film is about Ved and his internal conflict, but I found myself more interested in Tara's story, and I wish the film had shown more of her life. What exactly is her job? What are her interests? Does she have friends? A family? I wanted the film to flesh out more of her character. Now, there is certainly some clever editing present in the film which I was impressed by. My issue with the film mainly lies in how blatantly it communicates its theme, but to show Ved's mundane and dull life, we see him brushing his teeth, wearing his tie, driving, holding the lift, entering the office floor, wishing his boss good morning, and working soullessly. We see this happen repeatedly as these actions are cut really quickly. This was great. It visually communicates the same daily routine of Ved's day and how boring he finds it. It was one of my favorite scenes because it's very subjective filmmaking. The film isn't telling us how to feel, but puts us in the headspace of the character and allows us to feel what he is feeling. And at a point in the film where Wade takes command of his life, the montage starts out the same, but it feels different because this time he doesn't wear his tie, and when he enters the office, in the previous shots, it's just a wide shot of him entering the office floor, but this time when he's more independent, you see Wade occupying the space in the frame to show how he is different this time. I really like the performances. I mean, I found Wade's boss to be extremely cartoonish and that did not work for me. But Ranveer and Deepika really work. And of course, they have solid chemistry, but they're also playing these very interesting characters that I would love to see more of. My favorite scene of Ranveer's performance wasn't the part where he's talking to himself in the mirror, although that is well done. It's the scene where after Tara rejects his marriage proposal, he goes back to his friends at the dinner table and puts on a fake smile telling them that he is fine. But you know that deep inside he isn't. It's the subtlety and the unspoken aspect about the performance that impacted me. Now, some of the editing in the film is creatively executed. As Ved talks to an auto driver, he learns that the driver's passion was to be a singer and that he never really got to achieve that. Firstly, this allows Ved to relate to him, but then a song begins right in the middle of the scene. And unlike most Bollywood songs where it clashes with the pacing of the story, it works here because in the lovely song called Vattu Vattu Vattu, which I have been singing on repeat nowadays, You see the same auto driver singing on stage. The film intercuts between present and future, and that's something I find very bold. Ved's internal conflict is about finding his true identity. We see him repeatedly talking to himself in front of mirrors, and those are actually pretty well shot to show his split personality, as his reflections are also split. Now, whether he actually has a disorder is besides the point, but it's a quiet moment where you see an actor truly embodying a character. In the third act of the film, Ved goes back to his hometown and searches for the old storyteller, and he expects the storyteller to solve all his problems for him. But I love that he doesn't get the resolution he was wanting and realizes that it's up to Ved himself to take action in life, and it's his actions that will determine what will become of him. This was great. But when he goes back to confront his strict father, the film falls flat on its face for me. It's an emotional scene, sure, where a son tries to convince his father to pursue his dreams. It's not new, we have seen this before in other films, but here in Tamasha, it did not work for me. I do like the fact that Ved convinces his father through what he's talented at, telling stories, but I found the entire scene extremely on the nose. There is no nuance or subtlety. Ved outright expresses the message of the film, and his father suddenly accepts him. And I just found it too unbelievable. Even if any one of you has actually experienced this, it just did not work for me on a scene level. The final scene of the film was one of my favorites. You see Ved and Tara back in Corsica just dancing in the sunset, listening to music in their headphones, but we only hear the wind and their movements. It's a very beautifully shot and human scene of two people just vibing. So all in all, Tamasha is a film I don't happen to love as much as most, but I still understand why people love it, and I'm not taking that away from you. People change, but films remain the same. So my thoughts on the film could change in the future, you never know. But this video can be the beginning of a conversation about the film, its message, and how it is communicated. Thank you for watching.